Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're digging into the science behind that famously calm, collected French child. We're going to look at the cultural blueprint that actually helps shape their brains for resilience, literally from day one.
It all kind of starts with moments like this. From the author Pamela Druckerman. She moved to France and just noticed this huge difference between the kind of chaos she was used to and the calm of French family life. The adults could actually have a conversation, and the kids were just fine.
And seeing that really makes you ask the question, right? Is this whole thing just a stereotype, a myth, or is there something more going on? Like a deliberate, science-backed architecture designed to build a specific kind of brain? Okay, let's get into it. So, the entire French approach really rests on two incredibly simple but really powerful principles. They get introduced right from birth, and they act as these foundational pillars for a child's developing mind. The first pillar is what the French call le cadre. It literally translates to the frame. And that's exactly what it is. Think of it as this clear, consistent, and warm set of boundaries that basically structures a child's entire world. Now, let's be super clear about this. The point of le cadre isn't about being a drill sergeant or having authoritarian control. Not at all. It's about giving a young, developing brain the deep sense of security and predictability that it absolutely craves to grow and thrive. And this has a direct, measurable impact on the brain. A consistent framework actually supports the development of the prefrontal cortex. That's kind of like your brain's CEO, the part that handles planning and self-control. It also chills out the body's stress response system, the HPA axis, which keeps those stress hormones in check. And this approach, it lines up perfectly with what psychologists call the authoritative parenting style, which is all about being warm and loving and having high expectations. It's a proven recipe for success. Okay, pillar number 2 is la pause. It means exactly what it sounds like, the pause or the wait. And this is the practical day-in, day-out exercise that starts building the muscle of self-control from the very beginning. The most famous example of this, of course, is with baby sleep. When an infant stirs or cries in the middle of the night, instead of rushing in immediately, French parents just wait a moment. They pause, they observe. And this little gap gives the baby a chance to figure out how to connect their own sleep cycles, which is a fundamental skill in learning to self-soothe. So what's happening in the brain during these little pauses? Something profound. Each tiny managed delay strengthens the neural pathways for something called inhibitory control, which is basically the brain's brake pedal. It's the ability to not have a knee-jerk reaction. It also builds working memory, and most importantly, it teaches the brain how to tolerate a little bit of frustration. And that, right there, is the bedrock of resilience. Okay, so you've got these two big ideas, the frame and the pause. But how do they actually show up in daily life? Well, they aren't just abstract concepts. They get reinforced multiple times a day through one of the most important rituals in French culture, food. Just look at a typical school lunch in France. It's a masterclass in this whole philosophy. We're talking a 4-course meal designed by actual nutritionists. But it's not just about vitamins. Each course is teaching a skill, from trying new textures to practicing patience and table manners between plates. It's literally education on a fork. And the whole day is structured around these 4 distinct meal times: breakfast, lunch, a little afternoon snack called le goûter, and dinner. And that's it. There is no grazing, no constant flow of snacks. The rhythm is predictable, and it's non-negotiable. And this rhythm teaches an absolutely essential lesson. It's okay to feel a little bit hungry. By feeling that minor hunger, kids learn to understand their body's signals without freaking out. They trust that food is coming. It teaches them that a little hunger isn't an emergency. It's just a normal, temporary feeling, which again is another powerful workout for delaying gratification.
Now, this blueprint we're talking about isn't just kept inside the home. Oh no, it gets scaled up and reinforced by the entire society, and it happens through one institution in particular. At age 3, pretty much every single kid in France enters the École maternelle. And we're not just talking about daycare here. This is a free, public institution. It's considered the first essential step into public life, a cornerstone of the French social contract. The national curriculum for these schools is built around 5 core domains, and they cover all the things you'd expect, like language and art and discovering the world. But one of them is absolutely key to our story today. And that domain is becoming a student. This is basically all about socialization. It's le cadre, the framework, scaled up for a classroom. It is literally where children are taught the rules of living in a community, how to wait your turn, how to listen when someone else is talking, how to work together.
It is a full-blown curriculum in self-regulation. And this societal approach runs so deep that it actually influences medicine. Get this, when a child in France shows signs of something like ADHD, clinicians there will often first investigate the child's social context, their cadre, before they jump to a neurological diagnosis. They'll look at diet, family rules, and daily structure as possible root causes. It's a totally different way of looking at things.
Okay, but let's be real. No system is perfect, right? There are definitely some nuances here and even some potential downsides to this approach. So it's really important to separate the universal principles that work from the purely cultural style.
Research really highlights a key difference when it comes to feelings. In the US, parents tend to value open, loud and clear emotional expression. But in France, there's a higher value placed on emotional self-control, teaching kids to be, in their words, discreet. They're often more likely to kind of minimize a child's negative feelings to help them move on quickly.
So what's the potential risk of that? Well, the worry is that children might learn to just suppress their real feelings instead of actually learning how to process them. And some studies do suggest that this intense focus on control can take its own toll, with French mothers reporting pretty high levels of parental stress.
So the big takeaway here isn't that everyone should just start acting French. The idea is to pull out the universal, science-backed principles that help build resilient brains anywhere in the world. Things like creating that consistent framework, practicing small, manageable pauses, and building predictable rituals. These are things that can work for any family in any culture.
Ultimately, what the French model really shows us is that resilience isn't some magical trait a kid is just born with. It's a skill. It's something that can be built piece by piece. It's an architecture. And that really leaves us with a question to think about. What's the first stone that we can lay